Hello, everyone. How you doing today? How you doing tonight? This is Tony from the Six String Corner, getting to you on YouTube and Facebook, and hope you guys are all doing well. I know there's lots of different changes and everything to us getting outside, and as we have seen in the news in the past week, there's a lot of people getting outside, quite a bit. I'm not going to get into all of that stuff because this is not the forum for that, but definitely has been kind of wearing on a lot of us. I'm sure no matter where you stand on all those issues. I know for me, it's been I didn't sleep much last night. So I have to apologize up front. I'm just a little bit on the tired side right now. So those of you who are watching the replay later, thank you for joining in. Depending on what time of the year and what year you are watching this, this is just to give you an update. We were just on the tail end there. Well, I don't know about the tail end, but we're still in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and we're also dealing with all the protests and everything going on. And hopefully the future yous that are watching the recording in a year or two from now over there on YouTube will be able to see how this all pans out. But so I'm definitely on a little on the tired side right now. Didn't get very much sleep, and so forgive me if I'm a little bit slow today. I will do my best to help you out. Today we're going to talk about major scales. I'm most likely probably, in fact, I'm probably not going to have a jam at the end. It's been kind of not good for the YouTube friends. YouTube hasn't been picking up the audio very well. So I'm going to kind of just sort of pass on that just a little bit for today. If you'll forgive me, I'm going to try and keep this a little shorter, probably an earlier bedtime, since I'm just really trying to keep the eyes open right now. So that's what sleepless nights will do for you, right? So today we're going to cover on the major scales. Just to give you a quick synopsis on who I am, those of you on my personal page obviously know me, but if you're joining me on the on YouTube or on the Six String Corner Facebook page, just wanted to let you know that I, of course, teach guitar, I show guitar, I play guitar, I'm in a Rush tribute band. I also teach online guitar lessons, so those are available to anybody who wants to get them. I do teach that. I teach guitar, so just to give you a quick update on that one. There are some spots available. Online is the way to go right now, even now, because I teach at home and probably not going to have private students in the house for a little while. So online lessons, been doing it for quite a while. So if that interests you, if you want to learn from the comfort of home, I do give that, and I give lessons that should definitely hopefully help you out. So just bear that in mind as we move along. Those of you who are not on YouTube, I do have YouTube channels, the Six String Corner. There are tons and tons of videos of both having fun and learning something, learning how to play a song or learning how to play a scale or a guitar riff or how to strum something, what have you. Those, if you're on YouTube, you already know that. If you're just coming to the YouTube channel just go check out some of the other videos, you might find something that'll help you out. So, like I said, I'm gonna try and keep this probably a little bit shorter than normal, just because of alertness, but I will do my best. So here we go. Let's get started. All right, let's get this off on the roll. So the name of this one is about major scales, and major scales scales can be your friends. I mean, there's this misconception whenever people learn any instrument, really, I got to practice my scales. There's a lot of power in knowing a scale, not just how to play it, but kind of what's behind it. I'm not going to cover all that. That's probably a whole semester at college or at a school or something. But I'm going to actually cover some really quick, down and dirty stuff that I use, little tricks that I use when I'm not just soloing, but when I'm learning a song, and also if you're listening to somebody on YouTube and you want to make sure they're not giving you a bunch of hooey, you can go on and with some knowledge, just some basic, very, very basic knowledge, you can learn how to play a song the right way. That's really kind of what that's all about. So that's what I'm going to try and get into really quick. On Six String Corner and on YouTube, I'll be able to share the screen. So if you guys are interested on the personal side, on my Six String Corner Facebook page and on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be sharing some screens a little bit too. I don't have the ability to do that here on the phone, but we'll work on that at some point. But anyway, glad you're all watching, and so let's get started on this on the guitar. So without getting into heavy detail, scales are it's a series of notes, and I'm going to just speak in layman's terms. So those of you who are music nerds, forgive me. I'm not going to speak in music nerd language. I'm going to give you just straight up, just to the average person. To me, it's just it's a sequence of notes that are spread out, what we call intervals between those notes. So there's a distance between one note to the other, and sometimes we call it a step or a half step, and those mean a step is like two notes later. Half step is one note after it. A step and a half is three notes later. So if you're on for example, if you're on a piano, you're going to play one key and then you're going to play 1, 2 keys after that exactly, and that's a whole step. On the guitar, it's even easier to figure that out because the guitar has a note here, and then the next fret over is what's called a half step, and the fret after that from the original note is called a whole step. And so a major scale, minor scale, any scale really is a series of notes that are arranged in such a way with there's a certain sequence that they run in. Like, it goes to a whole step and then a whole step, half step. There's a sequence in that. So that's what that is. So that, putting all that aside, there's a lot of music theory behind that, but I'm just giving the down and dirty, quick, easy, this is how you do that thing to give you a little bit of insight on that. And then most guitarists, when we're learning probably the pentatonic scale, right? That's usually the first one. Whenever your music teacher, whoever it is probably taught you the pentatonic. All right, that's E minor pentatonic, and so a lot of people learn this pattern right here. All right, so that's a pentatonic scale. But we're not going to talk about pentatonic scales right now. Pentatonic scales are actually within what's called a major scale. So anybody who's learned music, whether you're in guitar, whether you're in piano, whether you play trumpet, whatever, you probably have at some point learned what a scale is. And if you have forgotten, or if you're brand new to it, I'm going to give you a quick insight. Now, I can't possibly educate you, so I'm just going to give you just a quick down and dirty thing about this. About it, and give you just a really quick insight on how this applies to learning songs. How does that work? Well, I'll tell you about that in a second. So in a major scale, and I'm going to share the screen over there on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm going to be sharing the screen right now. So those of you who are on the private page, I'll still talk this through, but I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to show you this little diagram that you're going to look at. Okay, you're probably looking at this right now. And these are called major scale patterns. All right. So on a major scale, speaking in terms of the way I just said, the half step, whole step thing. If you're looking on the screen here, it's whole step. Its distance between the first and the second note is a whole step. Second and third note is a whole step. Half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Those are the differences. So don't look at the letters or the note names just for a second, but just look at this sequence, because every major scale follows this pattern. And this is a major scale. They call it a major diatonic scale. All right, whatever. I don't want to get too boring here, but it's a major scale. All right. This is a series of steps, series of distances between each of those notes. So if I were to start with a D, if my first note was a D and not a C, the whole step from a D is actually an E. Okay, and we would follow that same sequence and go along, and that's what makes the D major scale. All right. Now, when we're playing guitar, we're probably not thinking about that. We're looking at this stuff. Oh my gosh, what is all these diagrams over here? Okay, there's major scales. Every scale has a certain pattern to it, and if you can get this part, if you can just get this part, you don't have to learn a million scales at all. You don't have to do that, like at all, like ever. If you can get these patterns down, okay, that I'm showing on YouTube and Facebook, if you can get these patterns down, okay, and just know 5 basic patterns, you can play any major scale. And this is the same as true for if you're learning minor scales, if you're learning the pentatonic scale, that, as we talked about, any exotic scales or harmonic, all the other scales, they basically follow a certain pattern. And on most musical instruments, there's usually some kind of pattern that you would play. But a guitar, it's pretty doggone consistent. Like a major scale pattern, this pattern is everywhere on the guitar. So these little gray notes here, these gray circles, they represent what's called the root. That's the name of the scale. So if you knew what this note was here, then you would say that this is the note, this is the name of that scale. Okay, now in the description, in the description on YouTube and Facebook, I have a link to what's called the Note Finder. Something I made up. It's something that I give all my students, and I also give this to people online and whoever's interested in helping you learn where your notes are on the guitar. I don't like to sit during a lesson and just sort of educate you on where your notes are, but there's this easy sequence, an easy system that would help you learn where those notes are at, because there's power in that. If you know where your notes are at on the guitar, and believe me, there's a lot of guitar players that don't know this. If you know where those notes are on your guitar, then you can play a major scale. You can play any major scale as long as you know these five basic patterns. And this is the same as true for like bar chords. Oh my gosh, bar chords. Well, the dreaded bar chords also follow a similar thing. So what you're seeing here, this little gray note here represents that note. Now we're going to get out, when I get off the screen, I'm going to go over this a little bit. But if I knew this note, let's say I knew that this note right here was a G, okay? That was a G note. Then this pattern that I would build from there, because we're doing here, maybe just back up. This actually represents the guitar neck, okay? And this here are the frets right here. And then these lines going this way represent the strings. The heaviest string here, the thinnest string here. These numbers inside these circles represent your left-hand finger numbers. 1 is the pointer, then 2 is the middle, 3 is the ring, 4 is the little finger, okay? And then the gray circles here represent they represent the root note, or which is actually the name of that scale. All right. So if you knew, just all you got to do is, if you didn't even know the rest of this stuff, you just wanted to know, hey, what's this note right here? This G note, and you play this pattern out just like this, you are playing what's called one of the versions of the G major scale. All right. Even if you didn't know what any of those other notes are, you should. But if you didn't, you can at least do that. And it goes down with this pattern here. Same thing, the second pattern. That's a G. I will find the G on this lowest string, and then I would play this pattern out. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to get off the screen, I'll show you how this works. I'm going to play this pattern out, and that's a G major scale. Same thing here, and same thing goes for all these other three. So there's 5 patterns basically to know on the guitar. All right, so that's what you're learning. That's what you want to know. So if you know where your notes are at, get the Note Finder I got down there, folks. You're going to need to get it if you don't have it, or find some way of knowing where your notes are. There's an easy system to learn that. But you can see how the power is in this. Later, probably next week, I'm going to cover bar chords or power chords too. And it follows the same thing, this idea of knowing where your notes are at. You can play whatever bar chord anywhere and know what the name of it is just by knowing what these notes are at, what these notes are called. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here. So I am going to do this pattern right here, and this one right here that we're looking at. No, take that back. I'm sorry. No, I'm going to do this pattern right here. Okay, this one right here, and we're going to do it in what's called the key of C. All right, and the reason I like the key of C is because it has no sharps or flats. It's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So if you know your alphabet, you're good. You got the key of C down. There you go. There's your key of C notes. All right. So, and that's what we're going to play here. We're going to find where that C is right here, and we're going to play this scale. All right. And then I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks that you can learn after knowing this. That'll help you learn your songs a lot better. Okay. All right. So I'm going to back off the screen sharing here. We're going to get back to the main image here. And now what we're going to do is go over that one pattern that I showed you. All right. And this is the key of C. All right. So since I know where my notes are at, I know that the C, which was on this string here, this is the 5th string up. All right. You can see that 5th string up right here. and which is also what's called the A string. And I know that the C note is right here. Okay, I know that that is the 3rd fret right here, if you can see that. All right, so on that 3rd fret from the here on this, that's a C. So that pattern that I showed you, okay, and real quick, let me just go right back to it just for a quick second there. So that pattern, this one right here, is the one I'm going to play. I'm going to play this pattern. Okay, I've learned 2, 4. I'm going to start with my middle finger, use my little finger, and then go on to the next string, use my pointer, my middle, and my little finger, and work my way down here. Okay, all right. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm saying right now, this is the fret. This is the 3rd fret. So the note I just pointed at was right here. This is the end of the guitar. 1, 2, 3, 3rd fret, 5th string, right here. All right, and we're going to start right on that note. Okay. So now we're off the screen sharing. So here's how we do this. All right, so there's the note, and I'm going to play it just the way that picture showed. Okay, so we have 1. So there's the finger here, and then here was that little finger. All right, if you didn't memorize it, that's okay. I can show it to you later. And then here's the next note, and I'm just following that pattern that I just saw. All right. All right, and I just played a C major scale, one version of it, or one position. And when you saw the numbers on those circles too, those numbers represent the finger numbers, and it's really important that you get that part. The finger numbers, you want to be able to use the correct fingers and not just find random fingers to play a scale. It's very important that you get your positioning right. This will help you later on when you're doing more advanced stuff. If you want to do that in guitar, even if you don't, using the right finger on the right chord on the right scale matters quite a bit. So, so that's how you would play that. All right, that pattern right there is what I just did. Okay, now that pattern. All right. So now if I know where my notes are at, I also know that this note right here, which is a whole step higher, is a D. So what happens if I put my middle finger, instead of starting it here, I put my middle finger here, and I play the exact same, right? The exact same pattern that I just did. Without even knowing the notes, other than the main note, what I'm doing here is I'm playing the key of D major, or one pattern of it. All right. But if I want to play D flat, what's a D flat? D flat is right here in the middle. All right. There's a C and there's a D. This is a D flat. Okay. This is because I know my notes. I know C. This is C sharp or D flat. They have the same 2 different names for the same note, and then a D. So I could do a D flat major and just play that exact same pattern. See, I'm doing that. So there's power in knowing these scales, because I can take that pattern and play it anywhere on the neck, and as long as I know where that root note is, I know that that's the name of the scale. That's the name of the scale that I'm playing. Now, obviously, we want to know what all the notes are in that scale. But quick, down, and dirty, that's what you can do. You can get right to it and play that scale. And that's true with all of them. When you saw me play that G major scale, this is another pattern right here. This is the first one I was showing you on that screen. All right. We started right here. Here, I'll give you a quick showing right here. It's this one right there, this pattern right here. All right. So I'm saying right here, I know that this is the 3rd fret from the end of the guitar on this lowest string. That's a G. So I'm going to play this pattern, and it will be a G major. Okay. So here's how we do make that work. So I'm going to play that pattern right now. That's a G major scale. And I could take that pattern now. It's a different pattern. I could take that pattern and play it anywhere. So I know that this is an A note, and play the exact same pattern. I'm going to play, guess what? The A major scale. All right. Now I could also, since I know this is the C right here, I can play that pattern up here, right? here's another way of playing that C major scale. So I know that pattern and this pattern. So I know two different patterns right there of the C major scale. And you can do that for, there's three others. I won't get into all of them, but if you knew those patterns, if you practiced them, congratulations, you know that. Now, if you ever want to learn lead guitar, these are things you're really going to need to know so that you know how to play within whatever key, whatever scale you're in. So that makes that really, really super, super important to get those major scales down. And as I said at the beginning, the reason these patterns work is because that you can use these patterns and move them around is it's just those sequence of intervals that I showed you. The distance between each of those notes is the same no matter what major scale you're going to play. It's always the same thing. It's just a matter of where you start and then just playing those, what they call those intervals, those distances between those notes. That is how that would work on a major scale. Now, so that's how you would do that. All right. And so let's go back to the key of C major. The next thing I want to go over with real quick about knowing the key is without getting into theory, and there's reasons of theory, and this would take many lessons to go over and whatnot. But I'm just going to give you the quick down and dirty thing because most musicians probably know this, at least gigging musicians would probably get this, at least they should, is what chords fit in a scale, okay, or a song key. I really say that more. It's probably more accurate. What chords typically fit in a scale, okay? What chords typically fit? And there is actually a pattern to that as well. There is a pattern to what chords fit in a scale. Let's go back to the C major because that's a little easier to know to think about because it's just the letters C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C, and then we start again. So let's look at just the C major scale, right? So there's a total of 8 notes, right? The 8th one being what's called the octave. It's just another C, but there are 8 notes in that scale, right? So here we got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. All right. So there are 8 notes in that scale. And you can build, knowing that scale, you can build the major chords. You can build minor chords from there. We won't get into all that here, but just to suffice it to say, you can build and you can find out whether a major, C major, or C minor fits in there. Does a D major or D minor fits in there? Just by knowing what notes are in that chord, you can find out what chord fits in there. And there's a very specific pattern or rhythm to this. Sometimes you'll hear musicians, and if you've been on YouTube, maybe learning from some guitar players or whatever, if it's not guitar, from whomever, sometimes you'll see an artist or a musician or a teaching will refer to not necessarily the note, the name of the chord, but they'll give it a number. Okay, it's a 1 chord, or it's a 2 chord, or it's a 3 chord, or a 4 chord, or a 5 or 6 chord. And what they're saying is that in each of those scales, in each of those song keys, the 1 chord, if we just look at the 1 chord, is based off of the first note in that scale or in that key. So in this case would be C. So the 1 chord is a C something, and in every major scale, the 1 chord is a major chord. So all you got to do is simply know what the name of that note is, which is easy. It's the name of the scale. So this is a C. So a C major would be the 1 chord in the key of C major. All right. What's the 2 chord? Now the 2 chord would be a D something. Every 2 chord in every major scale is a D minor, not a D major, because there's notes in that D major that don't necessarily fit in the C major scale. The D minor fits in that perfectly into that C major scale. So the 2 chord is always a minor. The 3 chord, in this case is an E, is always a minor. All those notes in that E minor fit in the C major scale. The 4th note, that's an F. The 4th note, the 4 chord is always a major. In this case, it's a F major. 1, 2, C, D, E, F. All right, that's an F major. Now the 5 chord, the 5 is a G something in this key of C major. 5 is always a G major. It's always a major chord. The 6, in this case is an A, is always an A minor. It's always a minor. All right. So there's standards to this. So going back, if you know your patterns, you really only need to know just one pattern to work on this exercise. Is know the first note that represents, that's the name of the first chord, which is always a major. The second note is the second chord in that major scale, which is always a minor. The third is always a minor. The fourth note in that scale is always a major. The fifth note is always a major. The sixth note is always a minor. I'm going to talk about the sixth note in a second. The seventh note is a diminished chord, and then you go back to the C, and you just start over again. So if you know the song key, if you know a song is in the key of C, all right, somebody told you that, or somehow you figured it out, or you were told, or whatever, it's in the key of C, you can make some pretty safe assumptions that you're probably you could see a C major, you could see a D minor, an E minor, an F major, a G major, or an A minor in there. Now, there's always exceptions to every music rule, so I'm not going to go into the exceptions. I'm giving you a general, broad overview so you can understand what I'm talking about here. So there are definitely chord combinations that are very popular in music, and this ties into, many of you may have seen a lot of these videos where somebody will do 50 songs back to back to back with the same 4 chords. Okay. And there's reasons for this, because that 1-4 chord combination is what works. It's what our ear likes to hear. We know this combination. We've heard this many times. Those 4 chord combinations is typically a 1, a 4, a 5, and a 6 chord. So what would they be? They would be the major, a major, a major, and a minor. And if it was a C major, which is what we just talked about, the 1 is the C major. The 4 chord is an F major. The 5 chord is a G major. The 6 chord is an A minor. All right, so there's all kinds of different combinations. I mean, it just works. And so there's a lot of songs that follow what's called that 1-4-5. That's not the only combination by all stretch of the imagination, but a lot of times when you see these groups or these videos showing these 1-4, these songs that have kind of the same chords, that's what they're doing. They're playing that same 1-4-5-6 combination. So this is what makes bands like Nickelback so popular, right? I mean, you probably have seen it. If you haven't, you should go on YouTube or wherever, and you'll see just one song overlaid from the other that they wrote, right? And it's kind of the same song because it's a formula that works. It's the same chord patterns that they work. That just works. We can make fun of it, but it's what we like to listen to. It's what we listen to, and there's a reason why that formula works. But that's how that works on guitar as well. And this ties into the last point that I wanted to make. This is how you can make certain assumptions when you're learning a song, or if you want to write a song, gives you certain assumptions to maybe what chords are probably happening in the song, right? So if you have an idea it's the key of C major, for example, and you're listening to the song, you know that you're probably going to play, if there's an F something, it probably is an F major and probably not an F minor. It doesn't mean an F minor would be in there. There are exceptions to this stuff, but generally speaking, you're probably going to play an F major. Why? Because you know that the 4th chord in that major scale is a major, and in the C major scale, it's an F. Okay, I'm probably moving a little bit fast, but at least hopefully you got the idea what I'm talking about. Is that is how you can make these assumptions, and that's why. So when you're learning a song, if you know the key of G, if you know the key of D, the key of A, it doesn't really matter. You know what those chords are, and that would probably fit in that song. Probably they're not the only ones, but they will probably fit in there. Okay, there's lots of others that branch out from there. There's stuff called 7 chords and 9 chords and all kinds of things. If you're not familiar with those, they kind of branch out from that, if you will. But we're not going to get into that today. But it still follows the same formula. Does the notes in that chord fit in the key that you're playing it in? All right. And that's how you can make those assumptions. So to recap, the first thing you would want to do is you know what your chord patterns are. And I'm sorry, your scale patterns. And the second thing, probably both at the same time, really, is you want to get to know, have an idea what your notes are on the guitar neck. It's really kind of important to know what those notes are. So that you can do this type of thing. You can find out where's the key of C major. I'm going to play these notes. I'm going to learn the scale. And then from there, you'll branch out. You're going to need to, and you will learn the rest of the notes in that scale. But this gets you started and it gets you rolling. And so that when you want to do a quick down and dirty, I want to play the D major. I want to play the E flat major. I want to play the E major. You just play that same pattern up and up, up and down, knowing where your root note is at. All right. And then from there is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chord pattern. There's a 7 also, which is diminished, but generally you'll see 1 to 6. And knowing that if you know the scale, if you know the notes in the scale, then you can determine what chord will fit in that scale, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B. I know that the 4 chord is the F and the 5 is a G, and those are always majors in the C major scale. Now, in another scale, that F might be an F minor. It just depends on the scale you're in. But in this case of C major, that's the scale. So, but you can do that by knowing your notes too. And again, know the fretboard, okay? You got to know the fretboard. It's fun to play songs. It really is. We just want to sit and we want to jam. We want to play our songs. But if you know the fretboard, if you got some knowledge of it, and I'm not talking having, just, this isn't music theory nerdness here. This is just having basic understanding of what you're playing here. Okay, knowing where your notes are at. Otherwise, if you don't know where your notes are at, it's kind of illiteracy in music. I mean, you got to know where these things are. You got to know when I say play something in C major, you got to know what that is. You should know what that is, whether it's either a scale or a bunch of chords. Have an idea. And then from there, you'll learn what the chords are. Okay, and then you'll learn what chords fit in that scale. And that's a quick and down and dirty way without giving any in-depth explanation on how they're played. That should hopefully help you out. Okay, so that is in a nutshell what I wanted to go over with major scales and how it could help you learn your songs, or if you're a songwriter, you want to write songs, how you can write the songs. And if you're using certain chord combinations, what scale can I play that fits in these chord combinations, right? You may not know that. Well, if you have some idea here, you have put it this way, you have better knowledge of that. Okay. So I know I covered a little bit more heady stuff than just jamming. Jamming's fun. I love doing that. I love just playing the songs, and just playing cool riffs and all that kind of stuff. But this stuff is basic and this stuff is kind of essential. So that's why I wanted to touch on this, so that, you guys can take that with you. And obviously just leave a comment. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them now. I'll get back to you before I close this out. But and if you're watching this later, put a comment in here and I'll be sure to get back to you and answer that question for you. Like if there's something you need to know. Another thing you do is you can just take an online lesson. I do give the online lessons. And I do have a couple spots available, but feel free to contact me for that. I do give them, and no matter where you're at, whether you're beginner, intermediate, you playing some songs, you don't know what you're doing, or you just need to have some basic understanding of what you're doing, just come on, take it free. The first lesson's free, and if it works for you, great, and we can go on from there. If it doesn't, no big deal. We shake hands and move on. But just take an online lesson and just see if this is something that can help you. If I can help you get better at whatever goal you want to set for your guitar playing. All right. So that's really about it. That's what I have for today. Like I said at the beginning, if you missed it, I very little sleep last night. I think it's personal reasons, the weight of the world, all that stuff. It's all kind of sometimes crashes down. I just couldn't sleep last night, so I'm kind of trying to keep the eyes open. So I think I'm going to kind of call it a little bit earlier today. I will do a jam at the end next week, and we'll do some more fun stuff. Also, if you're on Facebook, I've been posting a lot of videos that my wife and me have been doing, so a lot of music videos. So if you know my your private page, I got a bunch of stuff on there as well. And we also have a YouTube channel called the Rachel and Tony Show. and we're putting a lot of stuff up there too, just having a lot of fun, just making the best out of the situation that we're in. All right. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I'm gonna take, if nobody's got any other questions or doesn't have anything to ask, I'll be sure to get back to you. If you do have something later, just let me know, and I would be happy to help out. That's what I'm here for, here to help you all out. Okay, so thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for watching the live lesson. I will be back next week and with another freebie, and hopefully be more awake. All right. So, hey, stay safe out there. And there's many reasons why I should have to say that. So stay safe out there, both in health and in your domestic situations out there, or wherever you're living. So take care, and I'll catch you next week. All right. Keep rocking. Thanks a lot. Bye.